starting our meeting at 6:02 p.m. We do have a quorum. Our purpose tonight is primarily finishing up our budget process, or at least getting a lot more information, so we're a lot further along in the budget process.
Yep.
And some other regular board business as well. Does anyone have anything that they would like to add to the agenda, or not add to the agenda, but do you have any rearranging problems with it? Okay, so we will move on. We have our public comments, and we don't have public here, but we do have public online. And I need to get to the preamble. Well, first of all, do we have anyone that would like to speak? And if we don't, then I won't read the preamble, but if we do, I will.
So if you'd like to speak, go ahead and raise your hand.
And there will be, by the way, as we did at the last meeting, there is going to be an opportunity to speak specifically regarding the budget after we get the updated and further information from the superintendent. So we are going to have additional time for the public to comment at that point.
And there are no hands.
Okay. And I will wait and maybe do the preamble before the next public comment.
Okay.
Okay. So are you ready, Michael?
Yes. So we're into the budget then. And when we met last time, we brought you a level service budget, which means that we essentially said we're going to provide the same services. The budget that we brought last time had the services that we had provided this year, that we are providing this year. Some small tweaks in there. You'll remember that we moved a physical education position out of the expiring Stronger Connections grant and into the local budget. And you'll also remember that we're seeing an increase in special education students which need to be placed out of district. So those were two costs that came into the budget that weren't there before. And a notable reduction in the level service budget was we retired the assistant superintendent position and replaced it with a director of curriculum and student achievement. So at the meeting, you as a board were in a pretty okay place with the 5.08% expenditure budget increase, provided it didn't put us over the excess cost threshold. And you told us if it did go over the excess cost threshold, we should come back to you with a plan for how to get under the excess cost threshold for you to explore. And it did put us over the excess cost threshold. And I did meet with the cabinet, the administrative leadership team, and did put together a plan to get us back below the excess cost threshold. And I included that in your board packet. And then for those who are watching online or watching on TV later, that board packet was available to the entire community on the OSSD website. So to get you there, to get you below that number, we made 4 reductions, or we're proposing 4 reductions here. We're going to retire the associate principal position at the high school level. And then we're going to use some of those savings to restructure the work that happens there to pay for some of the additional workload. Overall savings in that reduction is $150,000. We're going to retire the assistant director of special education position This one's not quite as much because it's funded with 0.5 of the position, so half of the position is funded with IDEA funds, so federal grant funds, which means that only 0.5% of the position is funded locally. So there's a savings of $68,000 there. And hang on one second, let me get this person in. Okay, so there's a savings of $68,000 there. And what we'd actually do with this position is while we're retiring that, we are going to need some help in there, and we would put in like an inclusion specialist, kind of be more in a teaching role that worked directly with uh, kids, families, teachers, uh, and would be more in line with a teacher salary and would be funded. We are carrying a surplus of Medicaid funds that have built up over many years in this district. And we are being told by the state that we need to spend that down. And so this would be one of the ways to spend that down. We would bring in that position. So we'd replace the assistant director with an inclusion kind of specialist. Uh, we have $123,000 savings is our third savings, and that has to do with currently we have intervention type position for a project that Heather was going to work on in the budget that we haven't, it's never been filled. And so we're taking it out at this point and we won't fill it and we'll work our way around that. And then right now, we operate a Chromebook platform for students, a MacBook or a PC platform for teachers and support staff. And one of the things that we can recognize some significant savings and long-term savings over time is by going to a Chromebook platform. And describe some of that in more detail. People are more interested, they can read about it or happy to answer questions. But we thought that it was important. What we prioritized in these reductions was making it so that we were not reducing faculty and staff outside of administration. And so with those reductions in place, we are below the excess cost threshold, right? And we brought our expenditure budget increase down from 5.08% to 3.63%. With the numbers the way that we have them, with what the state has given us for a long-term weighted average daily membership, our expenditure budgets and our revenues the way that we've projected at the moment, it would put our spending per pupil at $16,248. Okay, so we're so last year we were like $90 below the excess cost threshold. We're more than double that now, below the excess cost threshold. So we widened the gap below the excess cost threshold. I'm confident at this point that, remember, what happens now is we're still working on different pieces of the budget or the different pieces of the data that need to come in to form a tax rate with the state. They haven't set a yield. They haven't set our equalized pupil number. Our equalized pupil number, uh, Robin and Crystal are continuing to get more of our weighted kids. They keep going up, right? And so if our weights keep going up, our cost per equalized pupil will go down. And if our cost per equalized pupil goes down, our taxes go down. Okay. So then what I prepared for you was with what I've just described, with those four cuts, budget we presented last time, those four reductions, here's where we would be with today's projections. And I put it in big and bold when you see it in writing, I'm going to say it in a big and bold way here online too. When I'm projecting on December 10th what a tax rate's going to be, I am huge assumptions that are going on, right? I can tell I'm confident in our revenue projection. I'm confident in our expenditure budget projection. I don't have a long-term weighted average daily membership. I'm pretty confident that I can say, I think that's going up. So it's bringing these numbers. I would expect that number would help drive these numbers down. I have no real idea what the state's going to do with the yield. I have to assume usually the tax letter's the worst case scenario, especially when they're trying to project big tax increases. They set the yield lower than what they would need to, and then they can go higher. So I think the yield will probably get set at a higher number throughout the legislative session. That will help bring taxes down. But so I think I'm giving you sort of a worst case scenario right now, and I'm pretty confident it's going to be better when I come back to you in January and I have those numbers, some of those numbers. Remember the long-term weighted average daily membership number, the state's supposed to finalize that by December 15th. They don't always make that deadline. The yield, the legislature will decide when they're going to set that number. Right? Last year, they did it really early in the session. It was the first time in my time as a superintendent that they did it as early as they did. Typically, the yield has been one of the last things that they do. I don't know where that'll fall this year. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes well after the vote, right? So projecting a tax rate is,
So when
you know,
you say, uh, help me understand this.
yeah.
So when you say the yield, so does that mean when this guess at the homestead tax rate, is that related to the yield?
So I'm not sure exactly where you are
I'm
right
on
now.
page 39,
You're on page 39.
where I'm,
You're
because
look,
I'm not looking at anything about the yield.
yeah. We didn't give a specific yield. We didn't tell you what was in the tax letter on the yield, but we used what the tax letter had for a yield
Okay.
when we made our projection.
So you use that number to create this possible
We used what the tax,
equalized homestead tax rate and then
yes.
the projection for our
Yeah.
common level appraisal and
I'm a-
our tax
I
rate.
think I'm going to get to where you are in just about
Okay,
45 seconds.
okay, all right.
Or
all right.
45 seconds after I answer Martha's question.
So, in layman's terms, what does yield refer to?
Yield is how much $1 on the tax rate yields in revenue for the state. So when the state charges $1 on the education tax rate, it will generate a certain amount of money. And so the way that the education budget is built, it's a really great question. The way the education budget is built is the state throughout the fall has been talking with business managers in the different districts, trying to figure out how much are we going to spend, what's happening there, how much are we going to have to raise, what is that going to look like, and they're making all kinds of assumptions behind the scenes, trying to make a guess. But the yield tells them when we charge $1 at the state level on the tax rate, it will make X number of dollars per student. Okay. And so they kind of get to play around with that number a little bit, and they always get to raise it or lower it depending on what they want to do. The legislature is responsible for setting the yield. The tax letter gives them a starting point, is the way the Joint Fiscal Office described it. Okay. So with it in mind that I'm making my best guess with the data that we have, and the only thing that Robin and I will promise you is that what we're saying tonight will not be right. Right? Okay? I promise you that these numbers will not be the numbers. But I think the numbers I personally think the numbers will be better. Right? And as the superintendent, I get to give you my impression about it. Robin's going to give you the facts on the numbers, plain and simple. And so today, too early to do that on a tax rate. But so with the current data available, we're below the excess cost threshold. Using the tax, the yield in the tax letter, your equalized homestead tax rate would be 1.8362. And that's such a small number, less than 2/3 of a penny, up from $1.8301. So I would say that you're flat, right? This is as flat of a tax rate as I could possibly get without it really being flat. Okay? So practically no increase on your equalized homestead tax rate. And remember, your equalized homestead tax rate, that's where you all start. Okay? So because you're a district, you all start, all of your taxes start at, if this is the right number, 1.8362. But then they apply the common level of appraisal to that. Okay? And each of your towns have a different common level of appraisal. Okay? Common level of appraisal is a mechanism that's designed to make it so that, like, your town can't undervalue the properties so that your taxes go down. Because if I don't value your property, if they don't value your property enough, then your taxes would be lower without the common level of appraisal. Okay? And that was the original plan behind the common level of appraisal. So what's going on with Braintree is Braintree, with this rate, their common level of appraisal is not going to have much of an impact, right? We'd be looking at, for all practical purposes, a level tax rate at that point. Brookfield's seeing about a 12-cent increase on the tax rate. Okay? And Randolph would see an 8-cent tax increase. It all has that increase. I can't say this more clearly. If your equalized homestead rate is the same, and then you see an increase, the increase is being driven by the common level of appraisal. It's because the property values in those towns are going up more. Okay? Now here's kind of the good news. I think it gets a little better than this, and I'm going deeper into the speculation land at the moment. If the long-term weighted average daily membership that we think we should be at comes through, each of those increases will go down by 3 to 4 cents. Okay? And if each of those go down by 3 or 4 cents, then everybody's below a double-digit increase in cents. All right? And then I did add in here, for every $120,000 that we cut out of the budget, that essentially could lower the tax rates in each of the towns by 1 penny. And the administrative team and I, so we think we've done what you asked us to do, right? At the 3.63% increase, it would be a 3.29% increase in cost per equalized pupils, where we've got it right now, without the students that I think we're going to get. Remember last year, your ballot item read 22%, right?
So this time it's going to be
3.29, I think. All right, let's see. I got to admit people. Give me 1 second here. Admit all. And you've got Rachel with her hand up. I think you got, so I told you that 1 penny if we cut by 120,000. Sorry, let me just finish this one thought here. So we think we've got you where you asked to be and where you wanted to be. And we did it without cutting people that work every day directly with children, right? In a teaching kind of capacity, in a direct instruction kind of capacity. Um, we do have, I do have 2 tiers of reductions, but those will impact kids. Those will have negative impact. They will reduce positions. And I only have 2. I can take another $257,710 to lower the tax rate by 2 cents. And then, no, I did not put those in. I did not. I took it to be the same thing as last time. I gave you the reductions that as an administrative team we're recommending. I'm not recommending that we go further than that at this point. I don't think we should impact kids, but you all get to be the deciders on that. And then anything beyond that, I would be back to you saying we need to reconfigure our elementaries at this point. But I mean, when we have a cost per equalized pupil increase of 3.29, we know that the Social Security cost of living adjustment is 2.8. If I get those long-term students that I'm expecting to get, I'm going to bring you a number that's below that inflationary rate. And I think that's what you've asked for. So, so that's where I am, and I will set my pen down. I'll be quiet for a minute and figure out where you all want to go. And Rachel has her hand up and has for a while.
Okay, Rachel.
Thank you. I have 2 questions about the proposed cuts or things that I want to learn more about. So one is this assistant director of special ed position was funded in part by grant funding from IDEA. So I'm wondering if by cutting that position, if we're essentially turning away free services, like free to us in terms of being paid by federal money, by cutting that position. And then my other question is I would love to hear a bit from Lisa about what potential impacts there might be on students by cutting an assistant principal position, just so I can understand what that looks like in the practice at the school.
Great. So what we do is we repurpose that money and that paid for the 0.5 of the assistant special ed director, and it would now fund part of that inclusion specialist. So we're going to keep that money in the mix. And Lisa, you're on the call. Are you able to?
Yes. Yep. And when I unmuted, my dog barked a little bit, so I apologize in advance for the pug before he makes noise. Anytime we make a cut, there's potential for impact. We think we've developed a plan to mitigate the impact on students. What we would essentially do is take that position apart. Our director of student services has agreed to take on test coordination, which is a portion of Mr. Perez's job. And so that would be sent to student services. The other portion of that role is 504 plan coordination. And what we think we can do is ask people at the grade team level who work with students to take on that role in exchange for an additional prep period each day. To offset the demands of that role, we would provide them with professional development. That would be for the academic 504 plans. For the ones rooted in mental health, we would that don't have an academic component, because sometimes there are a combination of needs in a 504 plan. And so we would need to have conversation around, where that plan would best be kept. So student services would take on some of them, and then the ones related to physical health like the diabetes plans, the plans for students with other chronic physical conditions, would hopefully be worked out through the health office. Our school nurses are an incredible source of strength in our school, and they manage healthcare plans. And I see this as fairly similar. Another goal that we would potentially reach related to this proposal is that we would open up some intervention blocks for students by at the high school level only, so grades 9 through 12, um, making it so right now there are 4 common classes. So like if you take ninth grade English, there are 4 blocks of ninth grade English. We would reduce that number to 3 to get closer to meeting the uh, the the student levels and classes that the AOE is proposing through Act 73 that we should try to reach. So we'll be close to those thresholds, and teachers will have an opportunity to either volunteer to case manage 504 plans on their team, or they can open up space to provide additional supports for students and an elective and still be working within the confines of the contract. I don't know. That was the most succinct summary I could create. So if you have additional questions, I'm happy to answer more.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Follow-up to both of Rachel's. Actually, with the federal idea grant funds, with what's happening at the federal level with the Department of Education, are we certain those funds will still exist to pay for this position or whatever position we use to fund? That's what.
So Bev, I would say it depends on how you define certain, right? So at this point, I would say that uh, the path that appears the most obvious to me is that the legislature, at the federal level, continues to pass continuing resolutions. We're not too far away from they're going to have to pass another one. If they pass that next one, I think it's going to get us well into the following year. Vermont is forward funded on the federal grant. So Vermont gets the money and has the money the year before we spend the money. So there should be some runway there. Um, is it possible that the grants will not come through? IDEA is a hard one for the federal government not to fund because it has to do with special education. I would say that the more likely grants that are at risk would be the title grants. And so, uh, could we be in a spot where we have to scramble? Yes. Do we have some resources that allow us to do that in our reserves and whatnot? Yes.
The second question was about the associate principal position. One of the things Lisa mentioned were the 504s, which would now be taken on at the grade level. So is there any concern about putting administrative tasks onto teachers' plates
So
moving forward? I understand there will be professional development to help them learn how to do it, but are we concerned about putting that work onto them?
So I'll take a stab at that first, and if Lisa wants to jump in, feel free, Lisa. But to me, 504s are a general education program, perfectly appropriate for them to be administered at a teaching level. I think that in some ways, this puts it closer to the practitioners and could be a really good thing and a positive thing. I think that the initial piece of this plan uh, is being received well. I think that's a testament to the folks at the high school understanding, again, we're really at that spot trying to make it so that we get to a point where we're meeting several different requirements. You heard Lisa talk about how this brings us closer to being in compliance with Act 73 and the class size averages, right? So we think that's an important way that we can get there while preserving the positions that we value and making sure that we keep full-time jobs and things like that.
Go ahead, Martha.
So continuing on down, I'm looking at word inclusion specialist. Can you define briefly what that looks like?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep kids in classrooms and not have them be out of district placed. So the inclusion specialist is how do we make sure that kids have the supports that they need, that teachers have the supports that they need, that parents have the supports that they need, so that we can keep our students in the regular ed classrooms as opposed to the high cost out of district placements.
So in some settings, I've heard inclusion is almost in. Because my kids needs to be placed in the.
Has
second
nothing to do with,
grade. That's what I wanted to make sure.
right?
Any other questions? So I just want to make sure I'm understanding everything correctly. So if your scenario is working, um, and our weighted pupils are more where we think they should be
Yes,
versus where they currently are,
where the state has them
where the
right now.
state
Yep,
has them
sure.
right now, we could see a 3 or 4 cent decrease in the property tax rates.
So let me say this
that
as
were-
clearly as I can.
Okay,
If the numbers came in the way that we're thinking the numbers are likely to come in, nailing me down here on this, Braintree's tax rate would go down from this year by 3 to 4 cents. Brookfield's tax rate would increase by 8 or 9 cents. And Randolph's tax rate would increase by, sorry, I just turned my head around on that, 3 or 4 cents, lower 4 or 5 cents,
okay,
right? So
Mhm.
these numbers are getting really, even with the common level of appraisal, they're getting to the point where even though you've got increased property values, we're not increasing taxes as much.
okay. Um, can you or Robin give me a dollar amount? Like how much,
What would the actual rate be?
or how much money would that mean? If your house, say your house was 300,000,
I can give that
Or
money to you right now.
350.
So if in each penny is $10 per 100,000. So uh, let's put some solid numbers here. Let's go with the numbers that I've got right on the chart.
okay,
We'll go with the worst case scenario.
okay, 12 cents.
So 12 cents is $120 per 100,000, right? So $360.
So 360
So-
for a 300,
$1,000 house, $1 a day.
okay,
Okay. 8 cents.
Yeah.
Is $80. So
$80.
240 on a $300,000 house.
Okay,
And Braintree going down or staying level.
staying level would
Stays
be
level.
Stay level, okay. So $300,000. All right. So that gives us a dollar amount. For some reason, for me, working off the percentages, it doesn't always compute as well. But that means, so when I run across somebody, there's the potential, worst case scenario, that
Based on highly speculative numbers at the moment,
highly
right?
speculative.
So just
But we're-
add to the picture, by any chance, if you had occasion to bounce this everybody on, skateboard, you know, what their thoughts are on the way of tax dollars?
Nope.
Because really when people look at it, they look at the combination also.
Right, right.
any of these like.
Right, right, that would be a little bit hard. Uh, And they can see it, and at least, the Randolph Select Board, they've been making it pretty clear that education is pushing the property tax increase and not their spending, but. What- Oh, who's that?
They're having a hard time hearing Martha online.
I'm not usually used to that.
Okay, so, any other questions from board members about what's been presented to us so far? Remember, we need to decide if this is going to be a budget that we feel will be supported by our communities. Given what we know, hoping for that best case scenario. And maybe just before so what, remind us what our process, we will be,
Yeah, I can
If-
do it. So here you
yeah,
go.
okay.
What you're
Give
looking
us-
for tonight, okay? What I'm looking for tonight is I've given you a scenario that has you below the excess cost threshold, has you at a cost per equalized pupil of somewhere around 3.2%, right? And as long as we stay in that range, is that the budget that you're ready to approve? Or are you wanting to do something different? Because tonight, you're just letting this sit. We don't have enough data for you to do anything tonight. You can't finalize tonight without knowing some of that other information. But you won't have a lot of time when we come back next month with that information. So I've given you the best picture I can give you of where it's going to land and what the warning's going to look like, right? So your warning's going to say to spend this amount of money, which is 3.2% more per equalized pupil than it was this year, right? That's essentially what your warning's going to say.
Mhm.
Only I think it's going to be better than that.
Okay.
And so if you're good with that, if you're ready, if you think you're ready for that, then there's not a lot more to do with this tonight. If you're not ready for that, at some point you're going to tell me tonight whether I need to introduce that
Additional,
the additional reductions, which again, I think they go beyond what you've asked for. And by doing that, it creates a different environment. Right now, I would say, you remember last year when we were in this room and this room was full, right? I don't think this room is not full tonight because of snow. I think this room is not full tonight because we're in a different position. And I think that we listened last year. I think that as you look at the reductions that we put on the table, I think they tie back to what we heard last year. And we said, how can we do this in an innovative way that actually provides services more directly to students, right? At a better cost. So that's what we worked hard to do as an administrative team as we looked at this. And so we think we've done that. We think we're ready, but we're waiting for you to tell us.
okay. So, oh, go ahead.
So you made mention that you expect special ed to increase in the district. I wanted to know why.
So when we look at the costs that are coming in, some of those costs are being driven by students who are coming to us with more needs. And some of those costs are kids that have been with us that we haven't been able to provide the needs that they have. So they end up going to those out of district placements.
And remind me if I'm not, if I'm remembering incorrectly, but some of those out of placement costs, we have to put them in our expenditure budget, but we will be reimbursed, maybe not for all of it, but for a fairly decent portion of it.
Yep, you're exactly right. When those students cost more than $67,000, every dollar that we spend beyond 67,000 on an extraordinary cost student, we receive a 90% reimbursement. It's factored into the revenue side. So when we start talking tax rates, right? So your expenditure budget, those students, those costs are showing up in your expenditure budget, but that reimbursement's already calculated in the
Revenue.
tax rate because it
Okay.
comes in, it shows as revenue, but that cost is part of the 3.63% expenditure budget increase. But
Okay, so the board members don't have any other questions. I want to give the public a chance to comment. Um, do we have any members of the public on who would like to comment? And if so, I can read our preamble just to make sure we're good to go. Do you see any?
so if you'd like to make a comment, raise your hand.
Okay. So from us at this
Can I ask them a question?
public,
Sometimes would they agree with what we have discussed and feel that no comment means you agree with us that you think we're ready to go on?
I mean, I think that it's your guys' decision as a board.
yeah, I think we need to make that decision.
I think that people have had the opportunity to comment and they've chosen not to, so. I don't think we can, assume anything from that, but, I will say that last year we heard loud and clear from the public that we did not, if we were to make any cuts, they needed to come from the top, from the administrative level, did not want to hear about cutting any kind of teaching positions that were directly with children. And we didn't want to deal with any kind of reorganization of campuses. It strikes me that Michael and your cabinet have done exactly that. And we've also kept to our own rule that we set for ourselves in remaining under the excess cost threshold. So it looks like there were some hard decisions that were made here with a couple positions, but overall, I know that I think that the folks will probably go for this when it comes time to vote on time.
Okay, so as a board, we need to kind of weigh in and what you're looking from us is, are we happy with this position? So I guess I would like to see a motion that from the board, either we're good with where the budget is at this point.
But we're not formally moving to
Or-
approve it yet, are we?
No, but he's got to,
But we do need to kind of communicate our general assent to it, I suppose.
Yeah.
right,
So Ryan's been pretty clear here. I understand I'm looking for a consensus from the board. And one consensus could be, I think Ryan has sort of summed it up, that yes, administration has done what they needed to do. The budget is in a place that you could approve at the next meeting if the assumptions that we've made if the assumptions that we made hold true. I understand that if something falls apart with the assumptions and suddenly we were to go above the excess cost threshold, I'd better come with a plan. But other than that, a 0.25% here, 0.5%, little changes. I think I'm going to come in better than the numbers that I think we're going to come in better than the numbers that we're talking about, and it's not going to be an issue because I also know that you were good at 5.08. So if you were good at 5.08, I can't see a scenario that's going to put us in a Vermont is going to have had something catastrophic go on the way that the long-term weighted average daily membership has been calculated. And that wouldn't make sense because we're not tracking that far off. And it's in our favor if our tracking is right. So the state's already given us the worst case scenario. So
You're feeling pretty confident in what you put
right.
out.
What I'm feeling pretty confident in, actually, when I get down to it, I'm feeling pretty confident in the cost per equalized pupil that we're talking about. I think it's going to be better than what I have on paper tonight, but it's what I have on paper is what we'll come back to, and you'll see next time. Did it come to fruition or not? And what I don't have confidence in. So the part that I
Okay.
really get struggling with is when we get into the tax rates, because I don't control the yield, right? So I can look at the numbers. I can look at what we spend. I can look at our revenue, and I can look at what our long-term weighted average daily membership is. I know what those things are, and those are hard numbers. Those are hard data numbers. The yield is a thing that the legislature gets to decide. So like last year, okay, in order to buy that yield up, they put $118 million of one-time money. Okay, so by putting that yield up, by putting that money in, they made it so that we had to make up 11 cents, right? So I should have said that earlier, but think about that. I'm looking at your rates going up in 2 out of 3 cases by less than 11 cents. And that's assuming that the state doesn't buy down the tax rate again. So we made up what the state bought down.
Nice way. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, making that clear.
Did you have a hand?
Yep.
Sam, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm in support of what we've been presented here tonight. I don't see any reason at this time to go to any further level of tiered reductions. And with the information that we have now, I think this is a strong looking program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion to go forward with this?
I think just sort of if everybody can kind of weigh in, I think
Okay.
that would be sufficient.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, I'll just say that this looks like reasonable path forward that I think our community will support.
All right, Emil.
I'd agree. I think you've done a really nice job of trying to figure out how to make things work within some limitations and keep student facing positions still well supported.
Thank you. We've heard from Ryan. You concur, Martha? All right. And myself as well. So
All right, so
I think we're ready to have you, hopefully everything will come through.
we're moving on. We know what our track is, and we will bring you solid numbers for your January meeting because the state will give us everything but the yield as a solid number.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
Mike.
will that be in the warning? Will that be in the warning format for January?
Yeah, you'll need to,
Yeah.
because you'll need
Yeah,
to
'cause we'll
approve the
need it.
warning,
Okay.
and you'll need to approve the ballot. You'll need to approve the annual meeting. You've got all of
All
those
that
things
together.
happen at the January meeting.
Okay. Super.
Great.
A little bit easier than the last time.
Well, he's doing the last year. Good job, everybody.
Thank you. All right, so moving on. So you're still on, Michael. An update for the Up for Learning student group that was,
We had our last meeting on on Tuesday this week. And well, it was our last learning meeting. And I'm really proud to say that Secretary Saunders came, and the Chief Academic Officer, Aaron Davis from the AOE came, and one of the assistant directors of the VPA came and listened to the work that the kids shared. And what they pulled together was a description of, this is the work that we did, this is what we learned, here's the sections of a vision that we think that the state ought to be considering. And I think what you ought to do is you ought to consider inviting the RU Up for Learning kids to come and run through their presentation with you rather than have me do it. Right? I think that would be a great thing for you to have on your January meeting. It would be a really powerful way to celebrate and see the work that these students have done and what the education that the OSSD provides is producing.
How many districts would you represent that?
Stayed with the three. So the three districts that came from Central Vermont were the OSSD, White River Valley, and Montpelier. And so White River Valley was not able to be at the last meeting, but
Nice. So would is the board interested in having students come in January to share? I would love to hear what their vision for
yeah, and it's, keep in
education
mind, this
would
isn't
be.
a full-blown vision. They didn't create a
Okay, so they
full-blown,
haven't, okay,
right? They had 12 hours of training time to work on it, and then they gave hours and hours and hours of gathering information. So it's not like they're coming in and saying, here's a full-fledged vision of what education should be for all of Vermont. This is a starting point and a process of how this can be. And that's what they would explain to you. What their ultimate goal is going to be, we're working on getting them time with the House Ed Committee so that they can talk about this process and how important it would be for this process to unfold all throughout Vermont, right? And keep in mind that this group had zero to do with governance. They are not going to talk in any way, shape, or form about governance. That is not their role.
so I would like to know from the board, would you like me to put that on the agenda for January? And I'm just gonna look for a nod of a head or maybe a hand. Okay, so we will make sure.
I will work
we
on
will
arranging
work
that.
With you, Michael, for that. Okay. So we will move on then to the next agenda item. Support staff negotiations. That group needs to.
We need a time, and we need to decide how we want to do this. And so doing that by email hasn't quite worked yet. So I'm hopeful that we have the people here that we can say, hey, there's two ways of approaching it. One is, do you want to get together, look at the contract before and figure out our whole plan? Or do you want to schedule a time with the support staff and go through ground rules, because your first meeting with the support staff will be to establish the ground rules. You've used essentially the same ground rules for years and years and years. And so we could schedule the time to meet get the ground rules established, and then we could meet right after that to review the contract and pull together our plan. But the committee will figure out what,
Michael,
like, yes,
who's on that subcommittee?
That is me
and
and Rachel. Let's see. I've got it.
I think it's Rachel Gatus, Ryan, and Martha.
And Martha, yeah.
Yeah.
So the four of us need to find a time when can we do that? Can we meet electronically or do we need to meet in person?
You can meet the bottom line is I have to warn it because it's a committee
Right,
meeting.
right.
So I have to warn it. So it can't, when I ran out of time the last time that I tried to get this going, to warn it with the appropriate amount of time.
Okay.
So the first question is, do you want to meet, develop the plan, develop the ground rules, all of those things, and then
Start
meet again? Yeah.
negotiation?
Or do you want to look for a time with the support staff, establish the ground rules, and then develop the plan and whatnot? See what I'm saying? I can save you one meeting. It's up to you all if you want to have that extra meeting.
Give me a sense of your timelines. Are we talking January or?
Yeah, I'm guessing at this point that what we'd be looking at is kind of saying to the support staff, we're available to meet to talk about ground rules on these days, or what do you want to do? I've got to get some idea of how to have the conversation with them so that we can get both sides together so that we can get an actual calendar going. That first meeting's always the hardest.
The after-school type time frame, right after school, or can they be released from schools?
I cannot imagine negotiating during the school day, especially with the support staff. Yeah, and so I think typically what's happened is that it's been something like a 5 to 7, I think, was the time that we negotiated last year. And that let the people who had to work and then come, and the support staff would probably be thrilled to start at 3:30 and be done at 5:30, but they also understand that there are people with work requirements that they've got to do. So that's the thing that's part of what the four of you have to figure out.
So do you want to throw out a few dates for us and
Pick
Or-
to me, the best thing for you to do is to pick a day of the week that generally is going to work for you, and pick a time that's generally going to work for you, and then start looking. I think we probably did Thursdays last year.
Just try to
Right.
do that same time frame, Thursdays.
the only Thursday that doesn't work for me is the second Thursday of the month,
So not the second Thursday.
not the second Thursday of the month.
We want to do Tuesdays this year, so we don't have to dance around that.
Martha's shaking her head no.
Mondays,
Thursday works fine. It's just
Yeah,
that one,
Thursdays.
it's just that one second Thursday.
All right.
of the month, but
And so, Ryan, I took your body language to be that 5 o'clock is sort of the early, if I remember from last year, 5 o'clock is sort of the
That's-
time that you have available.
that's it. Works for me.
And Rachel, is that gonna work okay for you? Pardon? All right.
Martha? 5 on Thursdays? Okay.
Okay,
So what I'm getting from you is let's do 5 on Thursdays. I'll send you the ground rules as they were last year If you have something that you're concerned about, you'll reach out to me separately. And if I need to pull you together to make a decision about the ground rules, or we could even, if it's a small kind of thing, we could meet shortly before the, shortly
actual
before
negotiation.
to pull it together, meet with them, and then meet after. Okay. I
Alright.
have what I need to get that meeting scheduled. Thank you.
Okay, super. Next up is we had our, for the CBA, the sabbatical committee met. And the board needs to, I need a motion for either accepting or rejecting the sabbatical request that the committee approved. So Martha is moving to accept the sabbatical request that the sabbatical committee put forth.
So you got your motion.
So I got a motion. Do I have a second? Seconded by Bev. Any discussion?
Yeah, so I was on this committee, and the committee unanimously agreed that the applicant met all of the criteria for or met the eligibility criteria, and should get the sabbatical. But one of the things that we discussed as a group was possibly considering the way that this eligibility is determined for future sabbaticals, for consideration before the next contract negotiation, and just setting up some things to talk through, like what would happen if more than one person was applying and how that decision would be made, and like what are the expectations in terms of is this for rest, is it for something that's supposed to contribute back to the school district, like that sort of thing, and not at all wanting to reduce any benefit or anything like that, but just like trying to get a better sense of what that looks like, and what kind of criteria teachers should be meeting. And I would be happy to do a little research on what other school districts do. I did do some initial digging around about like what the NEA recommends and some other places like that.
So I have a question, Rachel. Would this be something that would need to be renegotiated?
Be
With-
for this contract. This is like a suggestion for something for the next round of negotiations, that
Okay,
this would
For the
be
next
for that
contract?
for the future, not at all for this request.
Okay, okay. All right.
I'm sorry, who seconded the motion?
It was seconded by Bev.
Thank you.
Okay. So are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
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 So,
Yes, I'm not sure where things are left. Do we need to have any additional motion to proceed with any of this data work that Rachel's proposing?
well, that was, no. Or at least as far as it sounds like she's doing it, but it sounds like it's something that's gonna have to take place when we're negotiating with the teachers union.
Right.
Yeah.
But during the meeting, well, Michael and I chatted, and it was just that the appropriate place for me to bring this up and communicate with you guys, I think, was during this discussion. But then, Michael, if you can advise on, do we need to, what else do I need to do at this point to just say like, yes, I will do that research and present it to the board later?
Well, so I think there's, how about we do this? You had a motion,
Mhm.
you started to call the motion, right?
Yeah,
And you haven't finished that.
right. Well, we voted.
Do you vote, so,
But I was raising the addition, I wasn't sure.
so now,
Proposal in some fashion that after sabbatical.
Yeah.
continue, and not necessarily her herself.
Okay.
continue.
So-
3/4 of my case.
Just so that from a procedure standpoint, I understand where we are, right? Because I heard
Okay.
the yays. I
Yes.
didn't hear the call for the nays.
Okay, do we have any nays?
Okay.
No nays.
And any abstentions?
Any abstentions? No abstentions.
Okay, so now your motion carried. And
Yes.
then what I would say is the thing that you're asking and that Rachel's asking at the moment and that Martha's asking is, what about this other thing? So Martha's saying, do you need a motion? Do I, maybe she's saying, I don't know, do I need to put a motion on to authorize Rachel to go ahead and prepare something or whatnot? I would say that probably what you actually need is a consensus that it might be helpful for a future negotiating committee to have that, and you'd be happy to have Rachel do it. So you can do it in a really formal way, or you can do it in an informal way.
So let me ask Rachel, do you want to carry on your own, or would you like to have some sense of committee that you're bouncing with each other?
I mean, I feel like based on the things I've seen in my initial research and having spent a lot of time with this, what's in the contract, I feel like it's a pretty light lift of suggestions that I can make. Like if people don't want me to be the only person doing the research on this, I'm happy to talk to others, but I'm very comfortable coming back to you guys and sharing what I've learned. And then we as a board can figure out what we want to do.
So now I think as a chair, you're deciding whether you're going to go a formal way to get that moving, or are you going to go an informal way and look for a consensus?
Okay, so how does the board feel? Do we want to go with a formal motion to have Rachel finish up some research and propose?
I'm watching Rachel over there nod and
Okay.
say that
Yeah.
she looks like consent.
Consensus would be fine?
Yep.
Okay, so the
I-
consensus to be, and I'm still a little confused because it really won't impact anything until,
Well, what it's going to do is it's going to set up your next negotiations. What Rachel's bringing to
Right.
your attention tonight is that the language in the contract around the sabbatical appears to her that it could use
a
some
little more
tweaking.
clarification
You
on the
have
charge.
that language. You got to see that language as you were going, and perhaps you have come to the same conclusion. And she's willing to try to put some language saying that she can't be on the negotiating committee, but she can provide the negotiating committee with, hey, you might want to think about this. Having sat on this sabbatical committee, this might be helpful for future meetings. And
Okay.
then the negotiating committee would actually be the committee that said, are we going to do something with this or not?
Right, right.
You know,
And hopefully, I would imagine the teachers, the other folks that were on this committee
well,
will be
there,
doing the same with their
yeah, I don't,
negotiators.
that's union business. That's their
right,
deal.
That's their deal, but hopefully it's working in both areas, so. Okay.
So
we
I'm going to
have
go way out on a limb here, Rachel, and say, it looked to me like the consensus is support of you doing that. And by saying
Yes.
that, I'm sort of
Yes.
opening it up for them to say, no, Michael, you didn't read the room.
Good job, Michael.
You read the room.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. So just before negotiations start, I mean, I'll do it right away because otherwise I'll have a hard time remembering to do it. But I'll have it ready whenever you guys want to hear it.
Okay. And it's Ryan, Sam, and Emil who are on the
Except for who knows who it'll be because it's not
right.
until
and
next
then-
year.
Right. It's a whole year away, so
That's right.
we'll
So
see.
this is something that Rachel's gonna work on it, and I'm gonna flag it so that when we get to the negotiating committee, I need to remember, hey, Rachel. And if I don't remember, Rachel will say, hey, Michael.
All right. So moving on, you all should have received a draft of the annual report from the board that goes in the annual report to voters.
Pages 10 to 12 on your packet.
The glossy booklet that that will come out in February or so. So what happened was, I had missed on our annual agenda that I should have been checking in with the board at the last meeting to just get a sense of kind of remembering that annual report. Basically, the board is letting voters know kind of what we've been up to, what are kind of the issues that we're looking at. And so what I did is I was contacted by Ben Merrill, who helps us put the letter together and helps the district put the whole annual report together. I just sort of went through kind of what we've been up to. We'll get it. It's kind of in long form now, but generally what I'm hoping the board can give feedback on is there anything that I missed? Do you think is important? Is there detail in there that you don't think we really need to report out to the voters? The wordsmithing and that sort of thing. Leaving to them.
Quite frankly, it helped me to understand what this was when you held up that cover, because now I go, oh, now I understand what you're doing with it. And I was before trying to done the words with the activities I have better.
We don't need to worry so much about the wordsmithing. It's more, have we covered the, sort of the report to the community in terms of what work the board has been doing over the past year.
I thought this was comprehensive and well written. There were some minor formatting things like spaces surrounding M dashes. I would tighten up. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. He'll be working on that. Ben Merrill, he's the consultant. So is there wordsmithing, or it's more the content that I'm hoping, if there's something that has been missed, or if it's if there's something in particular that you really feel very passionately about, you can send it to me and I can put it in there.
Might be holding a pool earlier.
Yeah, Superintendent Michael Clark.
Yeah, we're gonna address efficiency. Michael Parker got.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's, I think that's, so Superintendent Clerk, no, but that's a little bit different than,
Michael, are there any honor entries that you'd like us to include?
No, no, I'm about as simple as it comes, right?
okay. Thank you, that's helpful. And are people feeling like I've covered? Again, he has to get it to fit on one page.
I was
So,
gonna say,
So
I
he
think
may-
you did a great job covering what we covered, and it's really long.
yeah, so,
I think there's a big. Turn down all of the main points, but. That's
that's what I can tell them. Yeah, because it basically, you get this first page. So, and this seems like it's longer than that. So I can give them that feedback. Sure. Oh, my goodness. We have extra copies of
I
this
have
next year's.
all of those that you could possibly want.
Okay, are there anything else? Those of you who are online, have any comments or things that you think were omitted or needed to be added? Okay,
The only other thing I would say is that, people want to know what we're doing for them. And talk about the training we're doing, because for us, and for them, it's probably less.
Yeah. Training. I think people care about that. I think they care about the things like the maintenance of the building. That kind of thing. That's a pretty cool.
okay,
No need to worry about big salary. I just don't think people care about that.
okay. So maybe just eliminate that, but I do want to mention Hannah's leaving us. So maybe we just,
I think you're gonna mention Hannah leaving. Well, yes, you did.
Yeah.
Send that back.
okay. So, all right. So that will cut out some of that.
I think you get Stephen.
Like,
That one is one that,
I guess Dan's attached that one.
well, it's I have it in here so that I can refer to it. I'd have to go pick up the names.
Bev, Kyle and I will drop a few into the bag.
All right, excellent. That's very helpful, Rachel. So thank you for pointing that out. And I think I have what I need to send off to Ben so that he can finalize that. Okay, so moving on. In the past, we have met with the legislators, usually in February, I believe, to just kind of check in. Sometimes they are looking for information from us. And it's also a time for us to kind of let them be aware of our concerns in terms of the state and education.
Is that specifically with us, or is that maybe that we need something, BTC?
It's been specifically with,
It's been,
they've come
yeah,
to a
it-
board meeting. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
great question.
So they usually come at the beginning of one of our board meetings, on our February, was it February board meeting? Pretty sure it was February board meeting. So
Yeah, it's usually February, and I've in the past have reached out to them. Larry Hart has since retired, so I don't know who will be appointed to fill that seat by Governor Scott, but I'd happily
As of last night, it still wasn't.
I'd happily do the reach out again if the board wants.
okay. So the question is, and I'm going to do this consensus as well, is the board interested in having the legislators come for our February meeting just to have a little check-in in regard to what's kind of
Is that just our two,
usually we've had all the reps, and the Orange County, and then Braintree has
Washington.
reps now, yeah.
That's actually. Like, more area.
Yeah, but they came. They did come.
If they're, I feel like it should invite them. If they're going to come, that would be lovely. Feels like a lot fast. I remember being validated.
Well, and there is a lot going on.
Well, yeah, Ann Cummings has always come and offered some pretty good insight on the finance side. And Watson gave us some good insight last year, as did Perchalik. So I don't know. I feel like I learn some perspective from what's going on up there when they come, but I understand it does make the meeting quite a bit longer.
Right. We could always do a special meeting for the legislators and hold our regular February meeting for our stuff if we wanted to make it less long.
So something we could cut them.
If you do it as part of our meeting, that it's public, and then public sees it as well.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And, right, and the public, we've had a number of, so I'm looking at our annual agenda to see how full the agenda will be for February. We have to talk about the budget information meetings because those happen before town meeting. Yeah, meet with the legislators is kind of the
It's the big thing.
big thing for that. Because the budget would be all done, all we would be doing is talking about the informational meeting and making sure that's all set up and ready to go.
Yeah, one problem with February is that it's so early in the session that they can't provide us that much insight on what they think is going to happen with education funding, and but maybe that'll be different this year with Act 73 as a priority.
I'm looking at March to see how March is. Oh, March is the reorg though. Yeah, that was good.
I mean, I think the question that I would have for you is, are you looking for them to get information from you, or are you getting information from them?
I think in the time that I've been on the board, it's been mostly us getting updates from them.
The question would be, in that case, we might look a little later. We could look at April. I don't know, what do folks
April
think?
gets to be really busy. Because then they are.
Because they're under the gun now.
They're under the gun, they're trying to wrap things up, ideally done by the.
Just, we were saying that maybe it was too early for the legislature. to
About their
know
town
about-
meeting, because then they are. You don't have responsibilities at the state. It's the time that they're supposed to be gathering and collecting with the communities.
Right, but that isn't when our meeting, we have a reorg meeting in March, so our meeting comes right after town meetings.
Kinda, I still, even if it's very early in the session, kind of like February anyway, because it gives us the opportunity to pick their brains a little bit before we see all of our members at town meeting.
And we can also talk about, well, will the yield be set by then? Maybe, maybe not.
It gives you an opportunity to say that it's not helpful to not have a yield.
Yeah, so there'll be current issues as well as the education reform stuff going on. So I say, I would say let's stick with February.
Yeah.
That would be my,
That push for late February, so I wouldn't go.
well, are you gonna miss our February meeting then? Our February meeting is February 11th.
Stand for probably less than just- I want to eat my grandbaby.
I know, those things happen. So what, those of you who are online, board members, are you in for February?
Yeah, I think February makes sense. I think if we push it much later in the legislative session, they're less likely to come. There's good energy at the beginning of the session. And there's, they're what, about a month in, Sam? So they've got some direction.
All right, so Sam, you had mentioned that you would be willing to take the lead in terms of contacting. Do you want to do all of the legislators? Do you want a helper to help you do some of the other ones, or do you feel comfortable?
Happy to do all of them. I usually put them all on a thread together so they put the pressure on each other.
No
to
peer
show.
pressure? Okay. All right, super. So we are talking February 11th. Sorry, Martha. All right. I'm not gonna make a formal do folks feel like we need a formal motion for that, or are we good to go?
Sam's got it.
Sam's
I
got it.
think consensus is okay.
Okay, so we'll, yeah.
So
okay.
Rachel's going to make a motion right
So
now.
Please make a motion. Rachel.
Seconded.
Seconded by Ryan. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye, or show your hand over on the online. Okay. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so motion has passed. All right, somehow I can misplace my, okay, here we go. So we are moving forward then to board education section of our meeting. And that's just to remind folks, we do have access to the policy governance virtual training. It's on Thursday, January 22nd at 6 p.m. And I believe we're gonna be, if you've missed them, where are we accessing?
Don't know.
I don't know either. If you want to find out, I believe they've been recording them.
I don't think they have.
Oh,
but-
they haven't been recording them this year. Okay. Well, if you missed it, you missed it. But anyway, the next one is January 22nd. We have in our monitoring section a first read of EL 2.4 and 2.5. You will find them in your packet.
Pages 13 through 17.
13 through 17. And these are following in line with our working on the budget at the same time.
I definitely like to talk about 2.5.
Okay, so go for it.
Okay, so 2.4 I think is pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty straightforward. and not a whole lot different than last year. And I can pretty confidently report compliance. 2.5, we had a structure last year that really lent itself to being able to be in compliance with 2.5. 2.5 is to protect the district from sudden loss of superintendent services. The superintendent shall not permit the administrative cabinet to be unprepared to take over with reasonable proficiency until a successor is found. And so with an assistant superintendent, that was all about the assistant superintendent and my interactions with the assistant superintendent. Without an assistant superintendent, there is not a automatic, here's the person who's going to take over for me if I get hit by a bus, right? So I feel like I've got work to do still on this. And so I reported partial compliance on it. I think that we have some very experienced members on our cabinet who have deep benches of mentoring that they could figure out what's going on. Uh, we have a strong distributive leadership model with the cabinet. I have a weekly operations meeting that looks at what's happening for that following week, and I have a cabinet and curriculum meeting every week as well. So the pieces are sort of there. What's not there in this is there's pieces where the superintendent signs things, takes care of things, and you would have to have a meeting in order to figure out who that was going to be, what that would look like. It wouldn't be a foregone conclusion that it was the assistant superintendent. And I think I could do some work with this a little bit with your blessing, I think, to say, hey, I'll work with the cabinet, sort out who that might be, come back to you and share kind of what we're thinking. But I'm clearly a little bit behind on this. It's something I probably should have thought about a little bit more when we retired that position, to say, hey, how is that going to play with the executive limitations? But so it's not as, I think the transition would not be as smooth. When I look at the language that you have here, uh, with reasonable proficiency until a successor is found, it's kind of vague language, and my level of reasonable proficiency might be higher than where I think we are right at the moment. I think it would happen. I would like it to happen more smoothly. So my suggestion to you with this particular one is I'm happy to report partial compliance. I'd like to give you an interim report as to where I am at next meeting on making it so that that proficiency is more reasonable, and then finalize in February is what I think. But that's where I think I am, and that's up to you.
Are there any questions? Or Michael?
So the sense of what the timeline is to be able to have a more robust picture of that, or this is the first reading. So are you going to be ready by second reading?
So I'm going to give you an interim report in January, and then February it will be ready.
Good.
Sounds reasonable.
Good foresight, Michael. Thank you.
Okay, financials. How are we looking, Michael?
We are in good shape. We're tracking as we have been. You know, I do not have concerns. Robin does not have concerns.
I would just like to briefly comment, I think that was exactly that it was very helpful for me to spend time now on this and the daily process. So that I better understand how the financial pages are laid out, know which lines line up with other lines. It's a whole lot of sense.
Great.
It's a good half hour that should be invested into any new coming board.
to do a little training
How to read
with
the
Bob on
spreadsheet.
how to read it. Mhm.
Because it shouldn't be a mystery to the board. It's an important part of the job.
Okay. Are there any other questions on financials from board members? Okay. Moving on. We don't have any policy matters to deal with this month. So we're to our own self-monitoring. And this is, uh-oh. We didn't change the, yeah. Okay, governance investment. But I have 4.5 as board members' code of conduct. That is not the right. Do I have the right one? I didn't touch that.
So on this one, can I ask a question?
This is. The agenda says that we're going to be doing 4.5, which is not governance investment. That is board members' code of conduct.
Okay, so should we just do 4.5 board members stuff?
Well, I think we've already done it.
Have we already done it?
I think we did it at Randolph Elementary.
I think you're right, Sam.
4.7. No, we did 4.7, the last one, which is the governance investment. And we are supposed to be doing 4.5 this in December. So we just labeled it wrong on the agenda. So, and we didn't catch it right in the beginning. So does that mean,
Probably ought to push it to next time.
okay, because we didn't catch it in the beginning, it is, you have the correct one. It's just that it wasn't on our agenda written correctly.
And I mean, you can always do it. And if somebody has a thing, the cure of it is to do it at the next warrant. But
I do have a question that probably is appropriate to go ahead and process it this time. Who wrote all these questions, this policy?
On the policy number 4.5, board members code of conduct. It's in the board did when we, and I believe some of it might have come from, they adapted some of this state required policy. The state has some required, yeah, but it's adopted on mine. It says adopted December 12th, 2016. So it would have been written by the board at the time.
Because as I was reading it, I'm going, my goodness, what does? Felt like I needed to have a lawyer by my side before I would be able to determine what was being said here, whether I wanted to sign it. Members must demonstrate loyalty to ownership. Now, is ownership referencing as it has in the
In policy governance.
policy governance?
Yes,
The ownership being the community.
taxpayers, yeah.
Okay, so it was, uncollected royalties to staff, other organizations, or personal interests regard for as parents or guardians. I mean,
Can I ask, are we moving this to next month or are we reviewing it now? Because I had a hard time hearing online and I'm just looking for clarification.
I am suggesting, because we didn't change it in our agenda, and our agenda said we were gonna be doing governance investment, which was 4.7, which is what we did last meeting. I'm suggesting that we table it, but in the meantime, Martha had a question about who wrote the policy and a couple of questions about the meanings of a couple of the sentences in the policy before she could review it. So,
Okay.
but I'm suggesting that the board table this till the next meeting, and we'll do both 4.5, and we'll do the next policy that we have for January, which is 4.6. I think that's a smaller one. Yes, that's the committee. That's the board committee principles. It's a short one. So we'll just double up at the next meeting since we didn't have it correct in the agenda.
All right, sounds good. I just was having a hard time hearing the back and forth. And so
Okay,
just needs to know where we're at.
all right.
so just asking, can you hear me as I'm talking right now?
She's shaking her head no.
Okay, well, I'm speaking at a reasonable level, it's the owl that isn't picking it up and bringing it, getting it to the screen.
Okay, we're almost through.
Okay, so, now what I don't remember is, do we need to vote to table something? Hang on one second, I'm just gonna pause for a minute just to look at it. Maybe made by a majority vote of the OSSD board. Okay, so I need a motion, or I will make the motion to table the self-evaluation of governance, our governance process policy 4.5, board members code of conduct till the next meeting, since it wasn't warned correctly in our agenda. Seconded by Beverly. Any discussion?
Are you also adding a second one for the next one too?
Yes, because it's a short one. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. Sorry about that, folks. I will pay it to the next one so that we make sure that we get it right. Okay, the consent agenda, that is our minutes from the last meeting and our new hires. Are they listed here?
You're looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Yes, they're on page 33.
Okay.
I'd love to put forward a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Do I have
I'll
a
second.
seconded by Rachel? Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Any abstentions? None. And it passes. Okay, moving on. We have the superintendent's report, which followed the meeting itself.
It has. So superintendent's report this time around was fairly dense, I think. I hope it was helpful having some of those resources and whatnot available. I'm happy to answer questions about it. I would draw your attention again to, this would be the second time in what will be an every month kind of thing around the end snapshot as a part of my report. So again, you've got the preamble of what you adopted as the ends, and you can see the kinds of things that we have done this month. This is not meant to be an exhaustive. It's not everything that happened in those areas, but it's some examples of how the schools and we are moving towards those ends. So proud of the work that we're doing, and happy to answer questions about my report.
Just curious, can you hear him speaking? He's about equal distance to the owl, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay. Do folks have any questions regarding superintendent's report? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Action item recap. Michael's going to reach out to the Up for Learning group, and Emil and I will make sure it gets on our agenda for January. Rachel is going to be working on the sabbatical process for future improvements in the negotiation or the CBA so that it's clear for the committee. I will be checking in with Ben Merrill and deleting that one little bit about our training out of the annual letter from the board. And then we'll fit the rest of it and finish wordsmithing it to get it ready for the annual report. Sam is going to connect with the legislators for our February meeting. And we will have two board policies to review for our next meeting, and we'll make sure they're on there correctly so people know what they're looking at. And next, I need a motion to move into executive session.
First, you need the motion to find that premature, right?
Right. I need a motion, a first motion to find that we need to move into executive session to discuss the superintendent.
It's right on page 2, if you
It's
want
on
to.
page 2 of the,
I move to find that premature general knowledge regarding the superintendent's contract clearly places the board at a substantial disadvantage because the board risks disclosing its negotiation strategy if it discusses the superintendent's contract in public.
So then you're looking for a second.
and do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ryan. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.